What if the end of the greatest empire in the galaxy was not only inevitable, but also predicted long before it began? Imagine a future where even the rulers of billions can't escape the fate written by mathematics. This is the story of Foundation, a world where science becomes prophecy. And one man dares to challenge the might of the galactic empire with nothing more than logic, numbers, and a plan to outsmart history itself. Section 1. The fragile empire at the center of this story lies the galactic empire, stretching across the stars, controlling countless planets and claiming eternal rule. Its leaders are the Cleons, a dynasty unlike any other. They are not chosen, nor born from different families. Instead, they are perfect clones, each a copy of the same man, ruling in 3 stages of life. Brother Dawn is the child, Brother Day is the active ruler, and Brother Dusk is the elder, the guide. Together, they maintain the illusion of stability, as if the empire will last forever because its rulers never truly change. But beneath this grand design lies fear. The Cleons know that their grip is not as strong as it seems. They rule through awe, punishment, and spectacle, but they cannot stop the quiet whispers spreading through the galaxy. Whispers that the empire, despite its massive fleets and godlike image, may one day crumble. This fear becomes reality when Hari Seldon, a brilliant mathematician from the planet Helicon, arrives with a dangerous idea. He has developed a science called psychohistory, a method so powerful it can predict the future of entire civilizations. And according to his equations, the empire will fall. Not just stumble, not just weaken, but collapse completely. Leading to 30,000 years of chaos and darkness, the prediction shakes the core of everything the Cleons believe. How could a man with equations dare to challenge the eternal empire? Brother Day, the middle ruler and the one holding power, sees this as heresy and a direct threat to his rule. To admit the truth of Seldon's theory would mean admitting weakness. And weakness is something the empire cannot afford to show. Instead of listening, the rulers put Seldon on trial. In the grand halls of Trantor, the capital of the empire, he defends his work not with fear, but with calm certainty. He tells them that the collapse is not something they can prevent. It is too vast, too deep, too certain. But he offers a solution: the Foundation. A collection of scientists, engineers, and thinkers who will preserve all the knowledge of humanity, so that instead of 30,000 years of darkness, the galaxy may only suffer 1,000 years before a new order rises. The Cleons face a choice: destroy Seldon and silence his warning, or accept his plan as the only way to save the future. But they are not rulers of reason. They are rulers of pride. They fear not only his words, but the fact that the people might believe him. If faith in the empire is broken, rebellion could spread. And so the stage is set for conflict. One man's vision of the future versus the arrogance of an empire that believes itself unbreakable. This is where the story truly begins. With a fragile empire pretending to be eternal, a ruler who cannot accept the truth, and a mathematician who dares to say that nothing lasts forever. Section 2. Hari Seldon. In psychohistory, Hari Seldon is no ordinary man. He is not a soldier, not a ruler, not even someone who craves power. He is a thinker, a mathematician, and the creator of an idea so bold it shakes the foundation of the galaxy itself. His science, called psychohistory, is a mix of mathematics, sociology, and probability. It cannot tell the future of a single person, but it can predict the rise and fall of entire civilizations. It is not prophecy in the mystical sense. It is logic, patterns, and numbers. Drawn out across centuries, Seldon's equations reveal one terrifying truth: the fall of the empire cannot be stopped. Every empire in history has collapsed, and this one is no different, even if it stretches across the stars. But he also shows that the length of suffering after the fall can be reduced. If humanity does nothing, the galaxy will plunge into chaos for 30,000 years. But if his plan is followed, if knowledge and science are preserved, then that dark age could be shortened to just 1,000 years. It is a staggering idea, and it terrifies the rulers of the empire. Because Seldon is not only predicting their downfall, he is predicting the end of their very identity. The Cleons believe themselves eternal, their dynasty unbroken, their rule unquestionable. Seldon's science exposes this as a lie, one that no amount of force or cloning can protect forever. Yet Seldon does not stand alone. With him is Gal Dornick, a young woman from the planet Synax. She grew up in a world where faith and religion silenced science. But her brilliance brought her to Trantor, the shining capital of the Empire, to work at Seldon's side. To Gal, Seldon is more than a teacher. He is a guide, someone who gives her hope that knowledge can overcome fear. Through her eyes, we see the wonder of psychohistory and the danger it represents. But the Cleons see Seldon as a problem to be erased. On Trantor, where every word is watched and every action judged, Seldon and his followers live under constant threat. Still, he refuses to bow. He speaks the truth of his science with calm authority, as if the numbers themselves give him armor. To the Empire, this defiance is unacceptable. To Gal, it is inspiring. And to history, it is the spark that will ignite a struggle lasting centuries. Hari Seldon is not just predicting the end. He is preparing for it. In his plan, the foundation has become the seed from which the future is rebuilt. Section 3. Tragedy and betrayal. The journey of Hari Seldon and his plan does not unfold the way anyone expects. The Empire, threatened by his predictions, chooses a path of control. Instead of executing him outright, the Cleons exile Seldon and his followers to the edge of the galaxy. Their punishment is wrapped in the illusion of mercy. The Emperor tells the people that Seldon and his group are being sent to Terminus to build their grand archive. But in truth, it is banishment. The Empire wants them far away, isolated, powerless, forgotten. For Gal Dornick, this is both terrifying and thrilling. She has left behind her homeworld, her old beliefs. And now she finds herself part of something larger, something that feels like destiny. But soon, tragedy changes everything. Hari Seldon, the man at the center of this plan, is suddenly killed. His murder shocks his followers and throws the mission into chaos. If the leader, the visionary, the very mind behind psychohistory, is gone, how can the foundations survive? But this death is not what it seems. Seldon's murder is not a random act of violence or the end of his influence. It is part of his design. Before his death, Hari had prepared for this moment, ensuring that his guidance would live on. Through carefully crafted holograms and digital echoes of himself, he continues to appear at key moments. He calls them Seldon crises, turning points in history when the fate of the Foundation is tested. Even in death, Hari Seldon is present, his voice echoing across decades, reminding his followers that the future he predicted is still unfolding exactly as planned. Yet for those who knew him, the pain is real. Gal feels abandoned and betrayed, unsure if Hari truly trusted her or simply used her as a piece in his grand equation. The followers left behind wonder if they can survive without his living presence. And among them, fear begins to grow. If the Empire wants them gone, and their leader is gone, how can they possibly survive the hardships of an unknown world? This moment is the first great fracture in the Foundation's journey. It shows that Seldon's plan demands sacrifice, and even those who believe in him must face loss, doubt, and betrayal. His death is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of something much larger. The Foundation now stands alone, guided by echoes of a man who seems to see centuries into the future, but unable to protect them from the struggles of the present. And so, with Seldon gone, and the Empire watching from afar, the followers begin their exile, carrying with them both the weight of grief and the seed of hope that one day their suffering will save humanity. Section 4. The Fall of Trantor in Exile. The Empire does not take Hari Seldon's predictions lightly. To the Cleons, the very idea that their rule could collapse is poison. If the people believe him, faith in the Empire will break, and rebellion could spread across the stars. Their solution is swift and brutal. They destroy the Star Bridge, a massive orbital elevator connecting Trantor to the skies. In a violent act that kills millions, the Empire frames the attack as punishment for those who dare to challenge their authority. This is not only revenge, it is a warning. No one questions the dynasty and lives without consequence. In the shadow of this destruction, Seldon's followers are cast out. They are sentenced to exile, sent far from the shining center of the galaxy to the barren, lonely world of Terminus. On Trantor, they had resources, libraries, and tools. On Terminus, they have nothing but their determination and the faint guidance of Hari's plan. To the Empire, they are outcasts. To themselves, they are humanity's last hope. Among them rises a figure who will shape the destiny of the Foundation, Salvor Hardin. As the Warden of Terminus, Salvor is not a scientist like Seldon or Gall, but a protector, a strategist, someone who sees danger before anyone else does. While others dream of building a great archive of knowledge, Salvor senses threats gathering beyond their fragile settlement. She knows that Terminus is not a safe haven. It is a beacon, one that will draw enemies from across the stars. Life on Terminus is harsh. The settlers face freezing winds, barren soil, and the weight of isolation. They are far from the Empire, yet never free from its shadow. Every day feels like a test of survival. But beneath the struggle lies the promise of Seldon's vision, that this hardship will one day shorten the darkness of the galaxy. For now, though, all they can do is endure, as the Foundation begins to take shape. Whispers of rebellion rise in the outer reach from the Anacreans and the Thespians, people who suffered under the Empire's wrath. To them, the Foundation is not a noble dream, but a target, a weakness to exploit. And so, even before the settlers can fully build their sanctuary, they find themselves standing at the edge of war. The exile meant to silence them has instead made them the center of history. The first true test of the Foundation is about to begin. Section 5. Conflict on Terminus. Terminus was meant to be a place of exile, far from the heart of the Empire, quiet and forgotten. But Hari Seldon's plan always hinted at something more. The Foundation, even in its fragile state, is destined to attract conflict. And that conflict arrives sooner than anyone expected. From the distant stars come the Anacreans, a people whose worlds were devastated when the Empire destroyed their fleets and left their planet scarred. To them, the Foundation is not a sanctuary of science. It is a weak settlement with resources and technology ripe for the taking. The Anacreans do not come to negotiate. They come to conquer. At the center of this storm stands Salvor Hardin, the Warden of Terminus. Unlike the scholars and dreamers around her, Salvor understands the reality of survival. She senses danger before others can see it, and when the Anacreons arrive, her instincts prove right. Terminus is not ready for war, but retreat is not an option. If the Foundation falls here, the dream of preserving knowledge dies with it. The Anacreons are not their only problem. The Thespians and other Outer Rim people who suffered under the Empire also enter the conflict, turning the region into a battlefield of shifting alliances and hidden motives. Trapped between these powers, the settlers must learn quickly that survival requires more than books and equations. It requires strategy, leadership, and unity. As the crisis deepens, the settlers discover the true purpose of Hari Seldon's plan. His recorded echo appears not as comfort but as prophecy. He declares that this moment, this conflict, is the first great Seldon crisis. It is a test designed to prove whether the Foundation can endure. Victory will not come through force of arms because the Foundation has no armies. It must come through wit, persuasion, and the careful use of the little knowledge they have preserved. With Salvor at the front, the Foundation learns to defend itself not by outgunning their enemies, but by outsmarting them. The settlers realize that knowledge itself is a weapon, and that their survival depends on how they wield it. This battle marks a turning point. The Foundation is no longer just a group of exiles scraping out an existence on a frozen world. It becomes a power in its own right, tested by fire and hardened by conflict. The prophecy is clear. If they can survive this crisis, they will shape the future of the galaxy. Section 6. The Cleon dynasty in crisis. While the Foundation struggles for survival on the edge of the galaxy, the very heart of the Empire begins to crack. The Cleon dynasty, built on the illusion of eternal stability, is not as unshakable as it appears. For centuries, the Empire has been ruled by three living clones of the same man, Brother Dawn, Brother Day, and Brother Dusk. each a stage of life repeating itself, generation after generation. It was meant to be flawless, a cycle without error. But now, flaws are appearing. Brother Dawn, the youngest of the three, begins to show signs that he is not a perfect copy. He sees differently, thinks differently, and even feels differently. To the outside world, he must appear identical to every Cleon who came before him. But within the palace walls, his differences are a dangerous secret. For the dynasty, even the smallest change is a threat. If the genetic chain is broken, the illusion of eternal rule shatters, and the people may realize the empire is not divine, it is fragile. Meanwhile, Brother Day, the current ruler, faces challenges to his authority. Religious leaders from the outer worlds openly defy him, declaring that the empire is not eternal and that faith in Cleon rule is misplaced. Day, consumed by pride, responds with brutal displays of power, but the more he tries to show control, the more obvious the cracks become. His rule feels less like godhood and more like desperation. Brother Dusk, the elder of the trio, watches these events with the weight of memory. He has lived the cycle before, seen empires tested, and felt the dynasty's pride hold it together. Yet even he senses that something is different this time. The perfect pattern is breaking, and no amount of ceremony or cloning can hide it. The genetic dynasty, once the unshakable core of the galaxy, now reveals its weakness. And just as Hari Seldon predicted, the fall begins, not at the edges of the empire, but at its very center. The rulers who believed themselves eternal are discovering that time and history cannot be cloned. Section 7. Salver, Hardens, Standone, Terminus. The Foundation faces its most dangerous moment yet. The Anacreons are no longer content with threats. They bring weapons, soldiers, and plans to seize what the settlers have built. Their leader, Farah, is ruthless and driven by vengeance. To her, the Foundation is nothing but prey, weak colonists clinging to survival on a frozen rock. She intends to turn Terminus into a base of power and strike back against the empire that once destroyed her people. Salver Harden refuses to bow. Though she carries no great title, her instincts as warden make her the heart of Terminus's defense. While others look to Hari Seldon's prophecies for guidance, Salver acts. She rallies the settlers, builds defenses, and faces the Anacreon threat head-on. But Salver knows this fight is not simply about survival. It is about proving that the Foundation has a place in the galaxy. The battle that follows is not one of equals. The Anacreons are stronger, armed with ships and weapons, while the settlers have only their wits and their will to endure. Yet Salver turns their weakness into strength. She understands what Seldon meant when he said the Foundation would survive not through force, but through strategy. By outthinking the enemy, she finds ways to resist when resistance should be impossible. Her leadership unites the colonists, transforming fear into defiance. And in the chaos of battle, strange truth begins to surface. Salver feels connected to something greater, as if destiny itself is guiding her actions. The settlers begin to believe that her role may be more than just warden. Perhaps she is part of Seldon's plan, though she was never meant to be. Through grit, intelligence, and determination, Salver Harden becomes a symbol. To the Anacreons, she is a thorn they cannot crush. To the settlers, she is proof that the Foundation can stand against the odds. Into history, she marks the moment when Terminus stops being a place of exile and becomes a force of its own. Section 8. The first Seldon crisis, just when the settlers of Terminus feel the weight of despair. Hari Seldon appears once more. Not in flesh and blood, but as a recorded echo, a projection triggered by events he had already foreseen. His calm voice cuts through the fear and reminds them that this is exactly what he predicted, the first great Seldon crisis. He explains that history always bends toward conflict. The Empire's reach has weakened, and its enemies have risen in the shadows. The Foundation was never meant to live in peace. It was meant to survive tests like this, tests that would shape it into the power needed to shorten the galaxy's dark age. This is the moment when they must choose between collapse and survival. But survival cannot come through war. The foundation is too small, too fragile. Instead, they must use the one weapon the Empire and its enemies cannot control: knowledge. Hari's voice urges them to think, to adapt, to use science and strategy to bend their enemies rather than fight them head-on. His message is clear: the Foundation's strength is not its numbers, but its ideas. For the settlers, the appearance of Seldon is both a comfort and a burden. It proves that they are not abandoned, that the plan is still alive. But it also forces them to realize that their struggles are not random accidents. Every hardship has been calculated, every loss foreseen. They are not living freely. They are living inside a prophecy. Salvor Hardin takes this truth and turns it into action. She sees that the Anacreon's aggression is not just about conquest, but about survival of their own. By understanding their needs and their pain, she finds ways to outmaneuver them without total destruction. In this way, the settlers begin to follow Seldon's path, solving the crisis not with weapons, but with strategy and diplomacy. The first Seldon crisis is resolved, and the Foundation stands. It is battered, scarred, and changed forever, but it survives. More importantly, it proves that Seldon's vision works. His predictions are real. His plan is unfolding, and history is moving exactly as he said it would. This victory gives the settlers hope. But it also raises a haunting question. If Seldon foresaw this, then what else has he foreseen? And what greater challenges are waiting just beyond the horizon?